Did you guys hear about the airplane a few weeks back? About roughly 12 days ago or so, there was a Alaska Airlines flight from Portland to Ontario, California. Not Ontario in Canada, but Ontario, California. So Portland, Oregon to Ontario, California. And one of the doors flew off of its hinges, which is actually pretty freaking crazy. I know if any of you who have ever flown, I don't fly very often, but I have flown before. And just being in an airplane is kind of nuts to begin with. I guess you get used to it, right? I don't know. I'm still a little freaked whenever I fly. Taking off isn't so bad. Landing is fucking terrifying. But apparently what happened is that this door flew off of its hinges and nobody was killed, thank God, but a bunch of people's stuff flew out the door, because what happens is that the cabin depressurizes, and if you're standing up at that particular moment, you can fly out and die. But I guess everybody lived. No harm, no foul. Some people are very freaked out about that. There's lots of investigations going on. And it's kind of a minor miracle that no one was injured and that the plane didn't crash or anything like that. Yeah, it's a Boeing 737 MAX 9. Piece of the fuselage is what they call that. Tore off, causing air to rush out and pressure to drop. And so now they're investigating this, right? Now the thing is, we are not allowed to have anything happen in the news nowadays without a giant ridiculous conspiracy theory starting over it automatically, and sure enough, it didn't take very long for the conspiracy theories to start formulating over this little event. So you saw it in the conservative media, especially talking about how it's all a conspiracy and how it's blah, 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 whatever. That's what they always say. This particular event, though, was a little bit different. Is that they didn't really blame it on Jewish space lasers or anything like that this time. Instead, they decided to blame the door falling off of the airplane on women. And I wish I was making that up, but it seems to be the actual truth. How did this all start? Well, of course, it starts how a lot of ridiculous, misogynist, idiotic, conservative conspiracy theories start on Twitter. All of the rip-off Twitter sort of like applications that spawned up overnight. Back in the day when Twitter used to be decent and they used to kick all the crazies and the Nazis and the white supremacists off, you got all of these sort of alternative wannabe Twitter sites. Places like Parler, places like Getter, stuff like that, right? Where all the Nazis would go. Well, now you don't really need those places anymore because since Elon Musk took over, you can just be a crazy, insane, right-wing conspiracy theorist, Nazi piece of shit right there on Twitter. So there's really no need to go to any alternative microblogging site at all, especially when the CEO of the company, one of the richest men on Earth, is the one who's spreading all the goddamn conspiracy theories. So what do I mean by that? Well, I got something to show you guys. This is a tweet from Elon Musk himself, talking about the door flying off the airplane. Do you want to fly in an airplane where they prioritize DEI hiring over your safety? That is actually happening. DEI, of course, is the latest conservative boogeyman. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is what that stands for. It is essentially kind of like affirmative action, but for corporations. Now, that has a very bad sort of negative connotation, that word affirmative action, right? Whenever you say that. And the reason why, it's because the conservatives have, over the course of the last 50 years, they've sufficiently poisoned the well against that term affirmative action. The majority of people in this country, when you hear the term affirmative action, they have it in their heads that the recipient of that was someone who didn't earn their position. And you've heard it, and it comes from basically 50 years of conservative anti-affirmative action messaging over and over and over. You didn't earn this, right? And then you saw it even when it comes into politics. Like, for example, when Barack Obama became president, was running for president, what was one of the attacks that Donald Trump levied against him? Donald Trump specifically attacked Obama in this way. What did he say? He said, I want to see his college records. That's what he said. Right, why? Why did he say that? Because the implication was that Obama didn't earn his degree, that he got it as the result of affirmative action, i.e., he was a diversity candidate or whatever, and he didn't actually earn it. That's what they mean when they say that. You know, as a little funny side note, Donald Trump has threatened the school dean of the school that he went to, right, of the college he went to. He threatened the dean of that college personally, saying that if my school records ever get out, I will sue you to death personally. I will sue you until you have nothing left personally. He's done that. So we will never know what Donald Trump's actual school records are because, you know, you want to know why? Because he was a dumbass. That's why. He's a dumbass and he basically coasted his way through school and probably had the grades of a fucking mentally ill goat or something like that. But anyway, so this is where it came from. It came from the CEO of Twitter getting up and saying that this was due to a diversity hire. I don't know how the door of a plane falling off has to do with diversity. Are they trying to say that women built the plane? Are they trying to say that the pilot somehow caused this? I don't understand that. Elon Musk elaborates a little bit more in his next tweet. So he's responding to this guy right here, IO. The average IQ of the USAF pilot is about 120, and the figures I've seen for major airline pilots range from 115 to 130. By contrast, the IQ of grads from two of the most United Airline HCUB partners is about 85 to 90 based on the average SATs of those schools. Basically, this guy is saying that, okay, well, the pilots that are graduating from the United Airlines pilot school are morons, is what he's trying to say. But what is he really saying here? See, whenever you see a conservative talking about IQ points, that kind of thing, what are they really saying? It's shorthand for racism. What they're trying to say, basically, is that these people are too stupid because they're genetically predisposed to have lower intelligence than white people. That's what they're trying to say. That's why the whole idea that, you know, when you hear white supremacists, they always say you're a low IQ person, that kind of thing. It's a dog whistle. It's a dog whistle for racist bigotry. What they're really doing is they're calling you the N-word, is what they're doing. Just saying you're a stupid N-word. That's what they're trying to do, but they're hiding it in something that looks a little more PC, right? Which is fucking bullshit. And, of course, Elon Musk responds to this. It will take an airline crashing and killing hundreds of people for them to change this crazy policy of DIE. I don't know if he wrote that on purpose because it spells die, or I don't know if he did that wrong on purpose because he's an idiot, because it's supposed to be DEI, not DIE. I don't know. Kind of hard to tell with Elon Musk. So that got the ball rolling, the fact that the Twitter CEO is the one that is spreading this ridiculous conspiracy theory, the idea that this door fell off of this airplane because they hired non-white people somehow. And it, of course, spreads like wildfire all over Twitter, and if it hits Twitter, then it unfortunately goes everywhere else. Next, we have this video from someone called Courage is a Habit, who is at Spirit Aereo. They are the subcontractors that make parts such as airplane doors for Boeing airplanes. Here is their dream team. And let's turn that music off because that's probably copyrighted. I guess, what is he trying to say here? Let's just make this bigger, okay? The Spirit Aerosystems dream team. What's he trying to say? There's a bunch of women. I mean, here's the thing, right? This is what the guy's implying. The guy's implying that, okay, the door fell off of this airplane because women are the ones who are making the doors, is what he said. And thus, women are stupid, and if they would have hired a bunch of men in there, then the door wouldn't have fallen off. That's what he's trying to say. Here's the thing, folks, right? This is a trade show, okay? It's a convention. They're in a convention hall. There are signs and stuff for all of these different companies. So are these women the actual engineers, or are they sales associates? Kind of seems like you don't send your engineers to a trade show to sell things. Doesn't that seem right? I mean, they're engineers. They're supposed to be in the shop designing shit and building shit. They're not supposed to be at a trade show trying to sell contracts and stuff to the company, you know, to other companies and that kind of thing, right? That's what you get a sales associate for. Someone who does sales. Like, say, maybe this team is the team that does the sales for the company. Of course, I mean, I guess it takes someone with a super gigantic IQ or whatever to understand that you don't put your fucking engineering team on the sales floor at a convention. It's just so fucking stupid. It's like, do these people even think about this shit before they post it at all? Like, it's the dumbest fucking thing. No, of course they don't. Of course they don't fucking think about it, right? Because they're not like this guy right here, Courage is a Habit, and Elon Musk and everybody else who posts this stupid shit. Their job is to get people angry. It has nothing to do with the actual truth, or even trying to say something that's even remotely poignant or relates to the actual issue at hand. Right? No, it's all about just insulting people and getting people pissed off so that they get more views or whatnot, so that they get more social media clout and advertising dollars. I guess fucking Twitter pays you now and shit. If you're like dumb enough to like pay Elon Musk the $8 or whatever, I guess you could get paid or whatnot if you piss people off on Twitter. Fucking stupid. A couple other things I want to show you. Here is a comic from somebody called Wokely Correct, which is trying to become the new fucking Pebble Yeet. This guy. Diversity hire not okay for this job. Basketball, can't risk losing the game. But okay for this job, can't risk missing the diversity quota. The door fell off of the plane. So are they trying to imply here that the pilots and the stewardesses are the ones who built the plane? Is that what they're trying to say? Last time I checked, the pilot doesn't actually go out with a fucking screwdriver and like screw the doors onto the fucking plane or whatever, right? Of course not, because it's not about, remember folks, it's just about pissing people off. It's just about being racist and pushing a racist agenda, a white supremacist fucking agenda, so that they can piss people off and get internet clout and fucking rake in money and also destroy America at the same time. That's pretty much what all of this shit is about. It's the only reason why any of these fucking yahoos post anything. They don't actually care about the truth. They don't care about what actually happened. They don't even care about being correct or saying something that's correct or pointing out when there's injustice or anything like that. They don't give a fuck about any of that at all. It's a game to these fucking people. Want to go over one last thing in relation to this. This is a video by Tim Pool. And we all know that Tim Pool has the most excellent of takes when it comes to this sort of thing. Let's make him a little small because he is a little tiny man. And we're not going to listen to his entire 13-minute video. We're only going to listen to about the first 2.5 minutes because that's where the relevant part is. This is a particular Timcast. It's from 13 days ago, so that's roughly the 9th, right after this happened. Alaska Air flight has door blown out during flight. Black box was erased. Okay. And he has on here a bunch of conservative douchebags with him. Let's listen to what Mr. Poole has to say. Let's listen to his opinion on this. And let's also not hate ourselves for having done so. So let's see what he's got to say.
From Forbes, cockpit voice recorder of Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 was erased. All right, so a few days ago, there was an Alaskan Airlines flight from Portland to Ontario, Canada. It was, it was Ontario, California, I think it was. I don't know, whatever. A section of the plane exploded and was ripped off the plane. I'm being a little hyperbolic. The pressure caused it to blow off the side of the plane. A couple cell phones flew out. A bunch of people's stuff, I guess, flew out. Depressurized cabin. Oxygen masks come down. The initial report was that a window blew out. Then you look at the video. I don't know if they have the video on the Forbes website. But you look at the video. It was actually, apparently, these 737 MAX 9s have an optional door. Alaska Airlines says, we don't want a door there, so just cover it up. And the pressure caused it to get ripped off the plane and go flying and landed in someone's backyard. The cockpit voice recorder on that flight was erased. The question is why? Now they'll come out and say, oh, it was just an accident. It was an accident. But I wonder if there's actually some malfeasance in that.
Was it really erased? See, that's the thing, folks, right? you can never really trust it when these people actually say this shit. So we're just gonna kind of fact check that real fast. I mean, it probably was, but let's see. 737 door black box erased. Was it actually erased? Black box recorder from the Imperiled Alaska flights completely erased. We have nothing. Door blows out mid-flight. Was it really erased? Cockpit audio is lost. Huh. I guess it was. Okay. Score 1 for Tim Pool. Let's continue.
Right now, it's an argument that the planes are no good. Following this report, we've got new information that loose bolts are found on door plugs on grounded United Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 9 jets. These door plugs are airs of the plane. They're not emergency exits. They're optional. Some they do use, some they don't.
Here we go. Before we continue, though. Currently, the FAA requires black box recordings to be kept only for 2 hours. So that's why. Now remember, folks, the plane didn't actually crash. The door flew off of the plane, but it didn't crash. So here's an article from Forbes about this. Let's go ahead and move this over here. Right? See, this is why you always got to fact check this stuff, right? You can never actually trust what these morons actually say on their stupid fucking podcasts or whatever, right? Cockpit roaster. All right, so this is from Forbes. Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 was overwritten. Cockpit voice recorder for Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 was overwritten, hampering investigators aiming to determine why a door plug from the exit door blew out shortly after flight. Okay, nothing on the cockpit voice recorder, blah, 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 blah. Since we've only done 10 investigations, the receiver was overwritten. Okay, now let's see. It says where decrease, it's only for 2 hours, right? Investigating any incident, the NTBSC wants to listen to the audio from the cockpit to try to glean clues from the verbal communication or sounds, such as mechanical noises or alarms that might be overheard. But too often that audio is not preserved for investigators, making it much harder to get to the bottom of what happened. Let's see. As the independent U.S. government investigative agency responsible for civil transportation accident investigations, the NTSB has called for Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, to increase black box recording time to 25 hours, which is the norm in Europe and many other countries. Currently, the FAA requires black box recordings to be kept for only 2 hours. Historically, the agency has pushed back on retaining black box recordings for longer time periods, often citing costs as a reason not to make the change. So Tim Pool thinks that that was a conspiracy, when in real life, it has to do with a lack of regulations. Gee, isn't that funny? You know, here's the thing, right? It took me all of 15 seconds to Google that and find the reason why the black box was overwritten. Tim Pool has millions upon millions of dollars, right? I'm just one guy doing this out of his bedroom. I ain't making no money doing this. Tim Pool has millions of dollars. He has budgets. He has guys that could do fact-checking for him. He has producers that get all of his shit ready for him before the actual show starts. He has no excuse whatsoever to have not have previously researched that and to find out that no, that isn't a fucking conspiracy. No, they didn't erase it because they were guilty of something. That's what he's implying, by the way. That no, that was all bullshit. And in real life, it's because they're not required to hang on to it, and it's a part of their normal operating procedure to overwrite the black box because it costs too much, or at least the company, the airline, doesn't want to pony up for the sufficient digital storage in order to keep it. Unlike in Europe, you notice the same article said in Europe, where they do have sufficient regulations, they'd have to keep it for 25 hours. Tim Pool will never, ever, ever say that because it means that a regulation would actually help somebody. So instead, what did he do? He blames it on a conspiracy. Because Tim Pool is very, very much, very quickly turning into Alex Jones, in case you haven't noticed. But let's continue on. I don't want to take up all of the man's time. Let's listen to what else he has to say.
Or we've got new information that loose bolts are found on door plugs on grounded United Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 9 jets. These door plugs are heirs of the plane. They're not emergency exits. They're optional. Some they do use, some they don't. I'm wondering how much of this is actually the planes are bad, or are we looking at a diversity hire problem where we have these pilots who are incapable of doing their jobs, and so you're getting pilot error. Maybe the cabin was pressurized incorrectly, causing the door to blow out.
Okay. How exactly? First off, right? He just said, okay, the bolts were loose on the door, right? He actually, the thing that he researched and said, he researched that. He said the bolts were loose on the door. I don't know why that turned all black like that, but that was funky. Instead of actually diving into what he researched, what his research told him, he's instead trying to blame it on diversity. How exactly? Now, like I just said, not even 5 minutes ago, how exactly is it the pilot's fault if the door flies off of the airplane? How do you compress or decompress or whatever the cabin? Like, what did he just say? Compress the cabin? Let's listen to exactly what he said, right?
Or are we looking at a diversity hire problem where we have these pilots who are incapable of doing their jobs, and so you're getting pilot error? Maybe the cabin was pressurized incorrectly, causing the door to blow out.
How exactly? How does one pressurize the cabin incorrectly and making the door fly out? I mean, it would happen if the door wasn't closed. It would also happen if the door had loose bolts on it. Like I said, is it the pilot's job to go and get a screwdriver and like a wrench and go around to every single little bolt on every door on the plane and make sure that shit is screwed in tight? Don't they have armies of technicians at the airport that go over the plane and make sure that everything's cool before they even take off? How is that the pilot's fault? How exactly? See, this is the problem with conspiracy theories, folks. He just made all of that shit up. He took one little thing, one little anomaly. That anomaly being, the flight recorder has been erased. And instead of investigating why it was erased, finding the easily discoverable solution to his conspiracy theory, no, he decided to blame that on diversity. Decided to run with a wild speculation that has no basis in fucking reality so that he could say something bad about minorities, about women and black people. That's what he's doing. That's the whole point behind this. It's so that they can blame the door falling off of the goddamn airplane on women and black people. With no evidence, with the shakiest of rationales that, like I just said, literally 15 seconds of Googling will disprove. I mean, does he just not... It's because he doesn't care. Keep that in mind, okay? It's not because he doesn't have the money or ability. If it's just some dude in his bedroom, like a lot of YouTube videos are just like one guy, like me, really. But a lot of YouTubers, a lot of streamers, a lot of YouTubers will just be a dude making, his own opinion. And sometimes people get shit wrong. And it's like, okay, well, do you flip out whenever some dude just like has an incorrect opinion that he didn't research? Like, well, no. No, it's just because he's just a guy. Right? I mean, that's the thing. Tim Pool isn't just a guy. Tim Pool has resources. Tim Pool has producers. Tim Pool has the budget to hire people to fact check his shit for him. If he really cared about being accurate, then he would be accurate. He would have had somebody look it up and see like, oh, the reason why the flight recorder was blank is because they overwrite it. Because they're not required to keep it on. He's being purposely misleading and disingenuous here. Which is partially why you should never, ever, ever debate people like Tim Pool. Because they don't come into it with the idea of truthfulness. As part of, like, they don't tell the truth to these fucking guys, right? It's all lies. Holy fucking shit. So that's the first thing about this. Second thing is that they have to twist it to fit their narrative. Let's turn this fucking shit off, okay? That's really all we really need to hear from Tim Pool here. The rest of this is actually pretty funny. You've got all of these other conservative douchebags on this cast too. Maybe one day when we got nothing to do, we'll go back and like rewatch some of these. But I kind of really don't want to listen to Tim Pool anymore. So we're turning his ass off. That was really the only point I needed to get from him, so fuck him. But this is the thing to keep in mind, right? If he would have actually done a proper vetting of his information, he would have found the reason why that the flight recorder was blank. He would have found the reason why the door was shoddy. And it's because of regulations. But conservatives cannot, they will not ever admit that this is exactly the kind of thing that a regulation is good for. You ever argue with someone who's like a fucking narco-capitalist or like a libertarian or something, and they'll always kind of just try to feed you a bunch of bullshit about, you know, especially when it comes to regulations, and half the time they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, this is the perfect example of how a regulation would have prevented this problem, right? If there was a law that said, hey, these doors have to be built to a certain standard, and they have to be checked before the plane takes off, etc., then the goddamn doors wouldn't have fallen off the plane. They would have found them, they would have found that they were loose, and there wouldn't have been this accident. If there was a law that said you have to keep the flight recorders for 25 hours, kind of like how they have in Europe, in Canada, like if they would have had that, except for the 2 hours that we allow them to erase them after, then we would have the flight recorder and we would see that it has nothing to do with this dipshit conspiracy theory that he thought up, right? And that, like, you know, and that no one's trying to hide anything, and the pilots aren't like afraid because they screwed up somehow, so they erased the fucking flight recorder. It's the dumbest shit ever, but they'll never admit this. Because this is what conservatives are actually there for. You know, all of the DEI, like, hatred and all that, and the hatred for, like, trans rights and all of this, like, it's all a smokescreen. Like, the culture war shit is a smokescreen. I mean, don't get me wrong, there actually are plenty of conservatives that's their main focus. But that's how it kind of always has been. It's always been a smokescreen for the big money conservatives, the CEOs and huge money donors that buy off politicians in order to get things like regulations taken away so that they can basically screw everybody and run away with all the money. And this is a perfect fucking example of that. And conservative media in general, like the alternative conservative media, people like Tim Pool or, you know, TPUSA, or fucking Ben Shapiro, all of those motherfuckers, like, that's how they all got their start. Every single one of those guys got their start with donors, like huge donors, like people like the Koch brothers or whatnot. Donors from huge polluting industries and media conglomerates that basically want to get rid of the government's capability to regulate anything. That's where all of these guys got their start. Every single one of them got their start with seed money from basically conservative oligarch billionaires. That kind of thing just doesn't really exist on the left. There are no super rich. I mean, I guess, I don't know who you're gonna count, like fucking like, I mean, there aren't any. There's nobody handing out checks on the left. You know, like, what's the one guy that they always try to claim is the conspiracy theory dude? George Soros. Okay. George Soros ain't giving nobody any checks. That's bullshit. If he was, where the fuck is my check? I'll sell out to fucking George Soros in a nanosecond. Anyway, it's all bullshit, folks, right? The fucking door fell off of the plane because we don't have sufficient regulations to make sure doors don't fall off of planes. That's why. All right? And yeah, eventually something like this, if they don't do anything about it, could potentially hurt somebody. I mean, planes crash all the time. And this is exactly, you know, it's like sort of a direct correlation sometimes with the amount of money that you spend on regulations versus the safety that you can guarantee. And we see it in not just in the airline industry, but like pretty much every industry. The less you invest in safety and the less you enforce when it comes to safety regulations, the more people die. I mean, that's pretty much a one-to-one kind of thing. It's demonstrable. It just kind of really gets me how fast this shit develops. Like, as soon as it, because that's the other thing. One last thing on this. This shit just happens, and it's like just a fluke, some weird-ass story in the news. Oh shit, a door fell off a plane. Even something as innocuous as that, something that we should all agree is a bad thing and that we should, like, have laws for safety to prevent that kind of thing from happening, right? Like, any sane, rational society would agree that there should be laws, right? So that planes have to be safe and inspected and all that. Even something as innocuous as that, these fuckers can, like, turn around and use in their stupid fucking culture war. Right? What the fuck does a door falling off a plane have to do with DEI? Absolutely fucking nothing. Only these morons fucking think so.
Hello folks, if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider buying something from my Etsy shop, supporting me on Patreon, liking and subscribing, and checking me out across my social media links listed below. Thank you all so much, and see you next time.